Good evening. Welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. And now, for your host, Kimberly McLemore.
All right, good evening and welcome to WSBI, your Resource for Success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring entrepreneurs and women-owned businesses from across the country. I am your host, Kimberly McLemore, CEO and founder of the Women's Small Business Initiative, LLC, and award-winning author. And welcome to another night of sharing. With us, we have singing, songwriting, and ministering to the incarcerated music artist, Randy Seedorff. Randy has been writing and performing for over 30 years, with his interest in music starting at the young age of 11 when his mother gave him his first guitar. Randy founded the group Soul Purpose in 2010. They released their studio album, Rearview Mirror, produced by Larry Kane of Awestruck Studios in 2014. Randy released his 7-track EP, Elevate, in 2017. The first two releases from that project reached number 1 on Christian radio charts. In 2021, he released Begin Again, an 8-track country and rock crossover project, a prolific songwriting. Randy is a member of both ASCAP, American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers, and GMA, Gospel Music Association. So, without further ado, please help me welcome to my platform, Miss Randy Seedorff. Hey, Randy, how are you?
I'm great, Kimberly. It's really good to be with you today and to be on your program.
Well, thank you. Well, I didn't think I was going to be able to get all that out. It was like, oh my goodness, my lips were going from one extreme to the other. And I'm like, you know what? Hopefully this isn't sounding too bad at all.
Maybe I should have made my bio a little shorter for you.
It's okay. It is all right. Well, it's always, hey, this is the reality, right? What happens, us all podcasters, no matter how many times I do this, I have to breathe and I pray that I never get this wrong, but that never goes that way. So it is just a part of the program. So, but anyway,
yes,
Well, Randy, again, it's such a pleasure to have you on. We've been talking in the background, so I can't wait to talk a little bit more about and hear your story for the listeners. And before we get started, though, could you please tell my listeners just a little bit more about who Randy Seedorff really is?
Well, I'm an artist, musician, songwriter, husband, and I'm a papa to 10 grandkids. I've been in the music business and around the music business most of my life. My mother was a country music artist, and so from the time I was very young, I was around music and around people in the industry. My mother had her own radio program back in the 1950s on a regional radio station. And if you were in my office, you could look up on the wall and see one of her personal appearance posters that I got as a gift not too long ago from one of my sisters. They found this in her personal belongings, and it's from 1956. So pretty cool. Yeah.
Wow. That is cool. And I was sitting here just with my mouth open when you said you have 10 grandkids, and like, you're a papa. You don't look like you're old enough to be a papa of 10 grandkids.
I have five children, and
wow.
And as the Bible says, they have been fruitful and multiplied.
Yes.
And so we're very grateful for that. We're really blessed that all but two our grandchildren are within the metropolitan area of Kansas City, where we live.
Okay.
Two of them are with their parents down in the Tampa, Florida area. So,
wow.
But our family is local here, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's even nicer. So you have plenty of time to enjoy spending with your grandkids and your kids. So that's awesome. And I was listening how you were talking about your mom. So I'm assuming your mother has been a big part of your inspiration when it comes to music and her career. So tell me a little bit more about your mom, and then how that first guitar at age 11 struck you the way it did.
Well, it's funny. She had two guitars, and she was a multi-instrumentalist. Her primary instrument was keyboard, and she played at the church that I grew up in, and she played piano, organ, accordion, harmonica, saxophone, guitar, and a couple of other instruments. She just we always had music going in our house, either playing or she was playing. And on Saturday afternoons, after she did her chores around the house, she would sit down and practice for church on Sunday. And that's really how I got interested in music. She would have me come and sit on the piano bench next to her, and have me vocalize with her. And she taught me how to sing harmony. And then she asked me one day if I wanted to learn how to play an instrument. And I said, she asked me if I wanted to play the piano. And I said, no, Mom, I don't want to play piano. I want to play guitar. And she pulled one of them out of the closet, and she said, I'll take you down to the music store and get you a book. And, I was self-taught really at that point. I took some lessons later on, but most of my life I've been self-taught on guitar, and it started with her. So.
Wow. Well, at least, you had an interest in it and you weren't forced into wanting to play music, which is, wonderful. And at least you got the choice, because I think it's amazing how most people say, well, let's go with the music, go with the piano first. And you're like, no, that's not going to work for me. So it's like, give me that guitar.
Yeah. I think she was just grateful that I had an interest in it. I had 7 brothers and sisters. Wow. And not all of them were interested in music. We had a really big family. I grew up with, as I said, 7 brothers and sisters, mom and dad, in a 3-bedroom house with 1 bathroom.
Wow.
So our house was a zoo. Most of the time, a lot of activity, and so music was kind of was something that we all enjoyed doing together.
Right. So, kind of the family outlet thing for everybody. So yeah, that sounds wonderful. So you have been playing since 11, and obviously since then you have done a lot in between that time. And talk a little bit about that journey, of being the young boy who was interested in guitar and then realizing that this has definitely been a part of your purpose in life. Talk a little bit about that.
Once again, I got a lot of encouragement, from my family. But around junior high school, I guess I was about 13 or 14, I started running into other people that I went to school with that played instruments. They played guitar. And after school, we would get together and start playing. And I started collaborating with friends that played guitar and knew more than me. And in my view, that's how you get better. You hang out with musicians that are better than you, and it helps you to grow. And I guess I was in high school then when I first started writing my first songs, and those were collaborations with a friend that, in fact, we're still friends today, that I've known almost 40 years now. But that grew to playing in church and leading worship. I got an offer to sing in the Promise Keepers worship team. And we did a few stadium concerts. We played at Arrowhead Stadium in front of 100,000 men, Kemper Arena. So that was kind of the culmination of a lot of work in gospel music. Then I started writing contemporary Christian music, and I started Soul Purpose Ministries. We took Soul Purpose out as a band and started playing concerts in churches and in venues where we thought people might not go. Not traditional venues, let's put it that way. We played car shows, we played barbecue contests. I mean, we went to a lot of places where people would not normally think that they would hear the gospel. Let's put it that way.
Well, the gospel can be heard anywhere. It doesn't matter where you're at, right?
That's right. Spread the good word, right?
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And music is definitely the way to bring people together. And as you're talking more about your ministering, we talked earlier and you were saying that you are ordained. So talk about your journey in being a minister, but also talk about the experience of working with people who have been incarcerated as a part of your ministry.
So ordination for me, being ordained as a pastor, was a very special experience for me. And in fact, just before we got on this call, I was looking at the pictures that I just received today from the ordination service from the photographer, and it just took me back to that moment, which was kind of the culmination of a lot of work and education and service time. There are some educational requirements and so forth that have to be met. It's a review process that has to take place, an interview process with the general superintendent of the Nazarene Church. Mm-hmm. It's quite a process, but it's also a new beginning. And for me, it's the launch of a ministry in music evangelism that started in 2010, mm-hmm. and we'll be doing music evangelism full time now as an ordained elder in the church. So the ministry to the incarcerated is part of that. About 3 years ago, we met a man named Johnny Allen, who was running a group called Rise Up Prison Ministry. And they were going into all of the prisons in the state of Missouri and ministering to men who really, really needed hope. Mm-hmm. They really needed the gospel. And we started just doing music, and then I started getting opportunities to speak. And now we're doing both. We've been registered now as VICs, which means that my wife and I are now volunteers in correction mm-hmm. for the state of Missouri. So we now have access to several facilities in the state. Wow. In fact, this Friday we'll be speaking at Jefferson City at Algoa Prison, at the chapel there inside the razor wire. August the 14th, we'll be doing a prison in the yard, one in the afternoon and one in the evening at WRCC in St. Joseph, which is for those who are coming out of alcohol and drug rehabilitation. Mm-hmm. So the ministry really is focused on helping these guys get their heart in the right place so they can go back and be good dads and be good fathers. It really changes the whole family dynamic. It's mm-hmm. not just about changing that one person's heart.
Right.
It has a cumulative effect. So that's really the focus of our ministry, is changing families.
Mm-hmm. And you're right. When they come out, when these gentlemen, come out, I'm assuming you're predominantly working with men, and they have to have hope. And if they don't have that hope coming from the inside to come out, they're going to go right back into that same circle of incidences that got them there. And you're right, it definitely affects the whole family. It affects everybody that they're associated with. So when you're ministering with these people who have been incarcerated and previously, or are they currently incarcerated, talk a little bit about your message. So if there's a listener that's right now that has been in that situation or is still currently right now in that situation and needs that little bit of hope, what would that message be?
Well, this Friday night, actually, I'll be speaking from Isaiah chapter 43, 18 and 19, that says that God wants to do a new thing in us. And for many of these gentlemen, I think you've hit it on the head, is that what they end up doing is going back to the same lifestyle and the same friends that got them incarcerated in the first place. And So God wants to do something new in them. They need to change their focus and forget the former things and not dwell on the past and to look beyond that. I tell the men when I speak to them, if you've ever been in a car, when you ride in the car, notice that the windshield is a lot bigger than the rearview mirror, right? And because we're meant to look forward. We're not to look, it's all right to look behind and take a glance there, but it's not meant for us to dwell on that. And if you're going to move on to new things in Christ, you have to learn that you can't depend on past successes or past victories or dwell on past failures, that you have to look and see that God wants to do a new thing in your life. They need new miracles. They need new work. They need new victories in their life. They need hope. And that's the message that we try to impart to the gentleman.
Right. And you're absolutely right. And like I said, I'm sure that there's definitely someone who's listening right now and saying, I needed to hear this today and tonight, because it is so important that we have to stop looking through the rearview mirror. We all have definitely gone through things in our lives, but when we hold on to them because we're angry, you're not helping yourself out. You're not able to move forward in the direction that God has already made steps for us. We already know those steps are there, but we all have a tendency to decide to move away from them for whatever reasons that we may have. And we put ourselves in these situations, and, you can't keep beating yourself up about what you could have done, should have done, because you're still here, you're still living. So there's purpose and reason for everything that we do. And you have the capabilities to be able to move forward in life. And I believe that, so many of our men and so many of our Black men are incarcerated for a lot of reasons. Some of them, I believe, are very unfounded and should not have been. But then, of course, there are some reasons that they've done something wrong. If you've done something wrong, you need to pay the price for that. But you can't pay the price for that for the rest of your life. And, I think that's the key. And so when I think about someone like you, Randy, who has the opportunity to, you sing, you have the capability to be able to sing, and preach from the music that comes from within your heart, as well as the opportunity to preach directly from the Bible. So I just kind of wanted to touch on that, because I just think it's very profound and it's prevalent. And with everything that's going on in the world around us today, we definitely need you.
Well, when you think about that, and I appreciate what you said about, some of the reasons that men are there are unfounded, but I do believe that we cannot, as you said, allow these errors in our life or these mistakes to define our life, right? And when you think about God's message, it's a message of hope. He offers redemption, and he offers the opportunity to start over. And what better message for someone who's waiting, for a day to step back out into new life, right?
Right.
So the freedom in their life happens first in their heart. The hope happens first on the inside, and then they have something to look forward to when they walk back out into their new life outside. So.
Absolutely. So during the time that we, had the pandemic and we were all pretty much stuck, how did you pivot during that time frame? Because you you didn't have the capability to go inside and talk to these men who needed to hear your voice, who, they're already in a bad situation, but I'm sure that situation went from bad to worse because they didn't have the same opportunities that we'd have. Even, with us staying at home, we were still better taken care of and so forth. So talk a little bit about that journey during the 2020.
Well, I think one of the biggest concerns that offenders have when they're incarcerated is being forgotten. And I think if we think about it in our own life, what's something that we would fear, and that would be for our family or our friends to forget about us, right? And so these guys have that same concern. And during this time, there was a lot of that, and there was a lot of isolation. And we think about our situation, the way we were isolated at home with our children or with our family or, our close-knit family units. It was much different, inside the facilities here in the state of Missouri. What we were able to do is to send videos. We would make videos and record them on DVD, and then we were able to mail them, and then they were able to watch them in their chapel services. And that was how we communicated with them. Just as soon as we could get back in there, we did.
Right.
And as far as my ministry as a pastor, I ended up doing a lot of things online and live streaming, which I think a lot of people pivoted to that.
Right. Right. And so also, I'm sure during the time that you were doing all the things in ministry, you also were writing music. And so talk about that journey, in the last year or so, because you just released, another 8-track country crossover and a rock project. So you were busy. You have been busy. So talk a little bit about your writing and so forth.
Well, I decided that I wanted to do this album several years ago. I wanted to do a country album. I grew up around country artists. My uncle was a Nashville sideman. As I said, my mother was a country music artist. So some of the songs on this record are tributes to members in my family. I Know Who Holds Tomorrow. It was my mother's most requested song on the radio. Why Me, Lord was my brother's favorite song, who's passed away a few years ago. Dream, that song was about what we talked about off the air, is that you're never too old or to start over. You're never too old to follow your dreams, to pursue the things that God puts on your heart, right?
That's right.
So the time during the pandemic was used to be creative in the studio. Larry Gann is my producer, engineer, mixer. He runs a studio in here in Kansas City called Awestruck Studios, and he is amazing to work with. He has the top shelf studio musicians. I played a lot of guitar on the project, but we know how to collaborate together now. This is our 4th album working together. And he kind of knows my heart and what I like, and he's a world-class producer. So we had a really, really excellent time working together.
Wow. Well, you have definitely, like I said, you've been very busy. And of course, tonight we're going to get the opportunity to hear one of your songs. So talk a little bit about the song Fearless.
Fearless was written after my 1993 armed robbery experience. I was in the hospitality industry back then, and I was held up at gunpoint. And just before the gentleman that had robbed me, they discussed whether or not they were going to cut my throat or whether they were going to shoot me before they left.
Oh, wow.
And they decided that they were going to shoot me. And so I was tied up with my hands behind my back. And, it was at that moment when they placed the gun against the back of my head that I thought, this is it, this is the end. And I cried out to God then at that moment, and I asked him to forgive me because I'd been living outside of his will at that time in my life. And at that moment, there was a honk on the horn in the parking lot from the getaway car, and they left without shooting. And they left without shooting me. And so that's what really started this journey with Soul Purpose. And out of that came this song, Fearless. So we got to live life to the fullest and live every moment the way God intended us to.
Absolutely. But, when I hear you tell that story, you could have went completely the opposite direction. You could have hung on to being angry. I mean, you've seen your life flash in front of you within a matter of seconds when people are standing there trying to decide whether they're going to let you live or not. I mean, that is crazy. Oh, my goodness.
I did an interview when I was in the UK, and a gentleman asked me, he said, you do prison ministry. What will you do if you run into the gentleman that robbed you when you're ministering in prison? And I thought that was maybe one of the best questions that anyone has ever asked me. No offense to you.
No, it's okay.
But I had to, I had to pause for a moment and think for a second. And my response came from the Holy Spirit, I'm sure. I just said, well, I've already forgiven the men that did that to me. And I think that's part of why I'm doing what I'm doing, is that why the Lord's led me down this path. That makes sense.
Right. And as we all say, everybody has a right for second chances in life. And you just
That's right.
talked about how you weren't living your life the way that you should have been, and you were stepping outside of what God had intended for you. And that one moment made you realize that, you know what, this is not where I'm supposed to be at. And so now you have that, you have that second opportunity, and you're sharing everything that has been given to you to others so that they continue to have the hope that they need to have, because there's, like I said, so many people in need of it. We all every day are in need of hope and prayer and love and support. And, we don't all get it. And even when we have families, a lot of people don't get that from their families too. So I always tell people, everybody has somebody who influences them, and it's not always about, that person that you are connected to in your family. So, I said, having you doing what you're doing is very important for those who don't have those connections on the outside world. And, and of course, us who do have the outside world, we definitely appreciate you. But I also want to ask you, on the business side of being in the music industry, what have you learned, and what could you share with those who may want to become a music artist? What advice would you give them?
Well, if you're going to be a music artist, you need to learn how to write songs. You need to be around people and collaborate with people who write songs. Good songs are what makes the music industry go round. And I've been blessed to be around people who are great songwriters, and that craft is what I would emphasize to any young person who's thinking about getting started in the music business. Work on what's in your heart. Make sure your heart's in the right place. Work on your instrument, what you play from, what you write from, but work on that songwriting. That's very important. I had an honor here not too long ago. I've been nominated for 3 Josie Awards, which are the Independent Artist Awards or Music Awards. And the award show is September 18th, and we'll see what happens, but it was an honor to be nominated. And there are wonderful artists that are nominated, but it's great to be recognized by your peers for the work that you've done as a songwriter. So that's special for me.
Well, and congratulations on the nomination.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're welcome. So when we talk about, being in the music industry, everybody has the capability today to be seen much sooner than what, happened for you years ago, because we didn't have all the electronic technology that we have today. We didn't have that virtual world. But when it comes on the other side of understanding the music industry, about the business side of it, what could you share with the listeners? Because I think, even though people have the capability of being able to be seen quicker, there still is that true understanding that music is a business. It's not just about you playing your instruments and about you singing and songwriting. Talk about that portion of the journey in music and the music industry.
Well, I think one of the key things is having good management. We went through several years where we just managed ourselves, and we found that we didn't get the same kind of exposure than when we hired management. And we hired Michael Stover as our management group, MTS Management, and we've been nothing but pleased with that. From the business side, I'd say having good representation is very important, and then just staying at it. I think just being consistent. And I think lots of people on the business side of music give up just before they see success. And I think you have to be stubborn. You have to be motivated. You have to say, I'm not gonna leave this business with any regrets. You know what I mean? It's I'm gonna live my dream. I'm gonna pursue this until people tell me, until the fans tell me that it's time for me to quit.
Right.
You know,
right. It's time to
you
hang
know,
it up.
when they don't buy, when they don't listen anymore, when they don't buy the music anymore, you know, when they don't recognize, you know, your gifting anymore, you know, maybe it's time to hang it up. But until then, you know, you want to live it to the fullest and keep after it. So from the business side, I think, you know, just showing that perseverance, you know, persevering, because there are going to be tough times. And then the other part of the business thing is getting out there in front of people and mastering that, being in front of an audience. That is so important. And learning how to build a relationship. You do the same thing when you get in front of a microphone and you talk to the people on your podcast. It's no different than being in front of a live audience, and you're able to build a relationship with them. And that only happens by being on stage.
Absolutely.
That can't be replicated any other way. But just doing it.
Yeah. And even though we have this virtual reality, I mean, it's great that you can connect with people very quickly. But like you said, building that rapport, having something, you know, connection in a whole different format is, you know, being in front of people. It's definitely not the same. So I agree with you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. You have more time to tell the stories and the backstories behind why you wrote a song, or, you know, the things that are going on in the world at that time. You know, and you can just really get intimate with people. It's really a different vibe altogether, as you know. So.
Absolutely. Well, Randy, this has been a phenomenal conversation, and I just have really enjoyed spending my evening with you. And I hope that, you know, that you have much continued success. And again, congratulations on your ministry, and becoming an ordained minister is a wonderful, profound opportunity to have, that you can continue to help others who are in need. And of course, before we end, please tell the listeners how they can find you through your social media.
Well, you can find me on Twitter. You can also find me on Facebook. My website is randyseedorff.com, RandysEedorff.com. And you can check out our music there. You can download right from our page. It has our full catalog of music. We even have a Christmas song on there. So if you're in the Christmas, you know, you can listen to God Rest You Merry Gentlemen. I know it's for people who think that, you know, you're not supposed to talk about Christmas in August. They're probably cringing right now, but you can download our latest album, Begin Again, there, or any of the songs individually. So,
all right. Well,
I also want to thank you, Kimberly, for the opportunity to be on your podcast tonight, and it's been a joy to be with you, and thank you for the opportunity to share some things about my life and my music.
You're very welcome. It has been my pleasure. And again, I thank you for coming on tonight. Do you have any last words for our listeners?
Well, just blessings to everyone, and keep your chin up. We're going to see the end of the tunnel before you know it here on this pandemic, and we're gonna see things turn around before you know it. So just know that you're loved and that you're prayed for here by Randy.
All right. Thank you again. And like I said, this evening, guys, before we close the show, we will definitely have the opportunity to listen to Randy's song. It's a positive and upbeat song called Fearless. And it always leads me to ask others to just think about, you know, what it is you wish existed for you. Are you prepared to live your dreams? And how are you going to turn those dreams into goals? If you would like to reach out to me and talk to me and have this conversation, you can contact me at Kimberly, WSBILLC @gmail.com. And let's just just chat. Because if you don't know where you came from, how are you going to know how you're going to move forward? So that's what I'm here to help you do. And of course, if you want more of your resource for success, you can donate to support the podcast on our Cash App with the $ and KMCLEMORE, or you can go to www.wsbilc.com, the website. And again, we would like to thank you all for listening to us tonight. We will be back next week with more amazing guests. Be sure to follow us on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Until then, enjoy the rest of the evening and good night.